So welcome everybody. It's very exciting to have everybody here today. So we're using the new format of the webinar portal rather than the meeting portal. So the things have changed a little bit. Kylie, do you want to talk about how people can interact with us via the chat?
Yes, they can jump into the chat. They can leave questions. They can, Merlin's just put in here saying, letting you all know what today's topic is, which is how to prioritize what you do in your business. So therefore, how to get yourself organized.
That's it.
If you have a question for us, ask away in the comments and we will answer it for you. Now, what is amusing is that we jump in 15 minutes before we go live. And this morning we jumped in and realized that everybody had the wrong link. So we were scrambling. So isn't that ironic, the topic of our conversation today? So it's just good for you all to see that things aren't always perfect. Isn't it that little analogy of the duck? And then although this morning we're not the duck, we're definitely not the swan on the top.
I love it.
Christine's got a great question start.
Oh, let's say what's Christine's question?
Which is it rude to ask everyone you know to like your Facebook page? I have a lot of opinions on this, but Jenny, I'd like to hear yours first.
I haven't invited everybody to like my page at the moment. What I've done is I've gone through, and so people who I connect with who know about my business, because I've got I think I've got 2,500 friends on my Facebook page. So I don't want to spam them all because some of them I don't really connect with on a regular basis. So the way I do it is I actually think about the people who know my business, who I talk to about my business and have interacted with me, and I invite them. And then as I find a new friend or as I connect with somebody, I just ask them to come in and like my page. And then different for posts. If I'm doing a post, I'll often say to people, hey, see my post, come and have a look.
Cool. So my thoughts on that are that I don't post a lot about my business on my personal page. So I feel we're all at different parts of Facebook for different reasons.
Yeah.
So when I do post about my business, it's not flooded, in my personal feed. Or I'm not flooding people with all of that kind of stuff. But when I think it's something of super value that they need to know about, then I'll post in there. But I do believe that you can ask people to come and like your page, because what you're asking your friends for is to support you in your business. You're not asking them to buy from you. You're not asking them to book your service. But I do think it's good to ask them to support you just by liking your page. So I like gazillions of pages, things that are completely irrelevant to what I do. I'm not seeing them in my newsfeed because I'm not necessarily interacting with them, but I'm showing my support by liking the page. That said, if you're a really good friend, you should be interacting with their page and you should be going, great post, even if it's not super relevant to what you're doing. It's still just showing your love and support of your friend or family member. So
I love that.
I think that's really important.
So we've got a couple of people who've told us they can't get into the meetings today. So we might just FYI, I'm just making note that I'm just going to, hopefully people can get in. So we've got, I think Felicity is in our messenger group. So if somebody can check with, Francine, that would be amazing.
Cool. Thank you.
That's okay. So today we're talking about prioritizing our time. And I know it's one of those things. And one of the key things is about scheduling time. And so today, for example, when we do these 30-minute calls, the idea of having 30 minutes is that we can get more, we can actually, add a lot of value in a short period of time, because we don't need to have a 3-hour conversation every week to talk about what we do. We can do it in a short amount of time. So one of the things that I do to talk about prioritizing time is to really use your diary. And it's one of the most important things. When I first started the business, everything was in my head, and I collect all the information in my head. But I found that because I can remember dates and times and meetings, I was getting into overwhelm, and a lot of people get into that place. And so by scheduling time, I realized I can actually let go of remembering things. I don't know if you find that, Kylie, that if it's not in your diary and you feel like it's in your head, you have to worry and remember it all the time, versus just actually saying, hang on, how do I, if it's in my diary, I just turn up and say, what's happening at 8 o'clock, what's happening at 9 o'clock, what's happening at 9:30, and I don't have to think about my day. Do you find that too?
Yes. And I think we've discussed before that you and I use different systems that do very, very similar things.
Yeah.
So for me, everything's in my calendar. It's in my Google Calendar. I used to also use the Apple Calendar, but crikey, things get messy across cross-posting, whatever. So I just completely deleted that one and I just go off Google Calendar. I'm so intense with mine that I've got color-coded all the different things that I do. And I have set every single thing up so that it gives me a reminder 10 minutes before. Particularly if I've got clients back to back, then that 10-minute reminder pops up and it reminds me to start, you know, seeing if they've got any last questions and winding up and things before I jump onto the next spot. So I really enjoy doing it that way rather than having a paper diary. But I still have my to-do lists though on a paper diary.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I mean, I use my Outlook calendar to live by. Like yesterday, I put a post up yesterday morning saying, hey, if anyone wants to have a chat, just because they're feeling a bit overwhelmed, to book in. And obviously one of my friends were just feeling it in that second. And I think I got a meeting request like 3 seconds later. But my diary, because I had this meeting yesterday, went from 10 to 4, a workshop that she booked in at 4 o'clock on the dot. So it's one of those challenges, and it made me remember, particularly for today, that my priority, I didn't give myself a buffer at the end of that 6-hour workshop. So thankfully she's a really good friend. I just messaged her and said, hey, I've finished my workshop at 4, can we push it to 5? But it's a reminder for me that when we're prioritizing time and trying to manage our diary, you need to put some buffers. And I know you and I have talked about this, about putting buffer times before or after your events. And it doesn't have to be both sides. It can just be at the start, maybe 15 minutes at the start, so that you can get centered and prep for the call. Or if you don't need that, it might be 15 minutes at the end, just so that you can finish a call, make any notes, go to the bathroom, get a cup of tea, and then come back and do your next meeting or wherever it is. So that buffer time is so important, because if you don't have that, you end up still in overwhelm, just very planned overwhelm.
Yes, I agree, Jenny. And I also know, unless I have a few moments in between, then you need that little bit of time to switch from one thing to another thing. And I also feel the same way. I saw this amazing documentary once about this guy that he worked from home, but he worked in whatever part of the house. And what he did at the end of his day is he went outside, he walked around the block, and he came in a different door and put his keys down and everything, put his jacket down and said, hi family, I'm home. And he said that shifted his mind and it gave him a bit of clearer space, and he was ready to be in family zone. And I thought, what a cool idea. So for me, my office is just a little bit away from the house. So one of my routines is, obviously I turn off all the lights, I go outside, I lock the door, and then I go into the house.
I love it.
And it feels really good. It's definitely a part of that process. And before, with my last business, which was e-commerce, and before I moved to a big warehouse, I had everything in my garage. And I had a similar scenario with that, is that I would make sure I had this whole process of locking up the garage and then coming around into the house, which really made me feel really separate to, even though it was literally just one sliding door.
I love it. One of the things I love about, I'm a process bunny, right? So I love little tips and hacks that help me kind of manage my day and manage my time. And particularly at the moment, I've got some really big contracts that I'm dealing with and big projects, but I've also got some smaller coaching programs in terms of time. So they're kind of an hour here or an hour there versus sort of whole day work. And so what I've been finding is that when I have all these things to do, because all the work has different levels of, we're at a different time in each of the projects, and then also, each of them require different levels of kind of thought and information, is that I prioritize my day with a really simple system called the Eisenhower Matrix. And I think I've talked to you about it. I call it the do first model. And I prioritize my things in 4 different ways, to whether they're urgent, important, whether they're urgent but not important, whether they're not important but urgent, or whether they're not important and not urgent. I know it's a very
I like it.
So it's a really cool system. Actually, it was developed by General Eisenhower in the 50s as his decision-making tool under wartime conditions. So he used it as everybody came and give him, if he had a task to do on that day, he would actually say, well, which box does it fit in? Is it something that I need to do right now because it's, time sensitive and, mission critical? Or is it something that actually no one needs to worry about and it goes into the box at the bottom, which literally means I'll get to it if I have time, and only if I have time, it's not a priority. And so I use that model when I look at all my tasks. And every day I get my diary and I put my 4 crosses in the top left-hand side of my page, and I prioritize my tasks for the day. And it means that I can, if I've got to make a phone call, that's a really important follow-up call, that's urgent and important. But if it's something like, I need to maybe book a dentist appointment for a month's time. That's not important and it's not urgent. I can leave that till later. It's not something that happens I need to do right away. And it just helps me do a brain dump of all the things I need to do that day, even if it's in my diary. And then I basically go through that model and make sure the top 2 boxes are done. And if the bottom 2 get done, that's a bonus. But if they don't, it's okay. We can look at it tomorrow.
Jenny, I love that. And I've got a big question, which is the number 3. So
Yes.
I'm very curious about that one. And which is, I think you said that's the one that is, what was it?
Urgent, but not important.
Yes. So how can something that's be urgent be not important? So can you give us an example of something that's urgent, not important?
And I know so the way I'll answer that in a different way. So the first one is you do first. That's the stuff you have to do straight away. The second box is the things you schedule. So you need to do it, but it doesn't have to happen today. So you schedule it in your diary. The third box is your delegate box. So they're the things that it's the things that you need to do, but you don't necessarily have to do them. So that might be booking an appointment for something that is important, but it's not urgent, or it's not. And so then you might say to your VA or your staff, or even if it's your family member, hey, can you go and do that call? Or can you make that, make dinner tonight? Or can you do something, because it's something that needs to be done, but you don't necessarily have to do it. And it's a really good way to start thinking about how you delegate to your team, but also even at home with your family. Like, there are things that I used to think I had to do all of it. I had to do the housework, I had to do everything, shopping, cleaning, everything. And plus the business. And I was feeling, oh my God, we can't do this. So we sat down at home and said, what are the things that I actually have to do? And what are the things that the family can support me with? And so that's that box number 3. They're things that have to be done, but maybe I don't have to do it. Maybe I don't have to cook 6 days or 7 days a week. So we start delegating some tasks. Maybe I don't have to do all the cleaning. So Zali does the vacuuming upstairs, Jeremy does the bathroom. So everybody has their tasks and they're allocated that. So it means that I can let that go, but it still has to be done. Does that make sense?
I'm loving number 3.
Yeah, number 3 is great. It's like it's the one that frees up your time, and goes back to that idea of being able to prioritize what you need to do and actually let things go.
Wow, that's super awesome. I love it.
So I do have that. If anybody is looking for that, I can actually send a link in the group for I call it the Do First Matrix, and I've got a link on my website that I can send it. But I can just send everybody, if everyone would like it, we can send them the PDF after this if it's going to be of value to you.
Yeah, that's magic.
Yeah,
there you go. It could become a magic PDF.
It could become a magic PDF.
That's awesome. Jenny, what's another trick or tool that you have up your sleeve where you can keep yourself organized? Because I love how you refer to yourself as a process bunny. That is definitely your superpower. What's another one that you've got?
Thank you for asking. I'm thinking the other one that I really, really love to do is when I'm scheduling time and looking at how long things take to do, I actually sit down and go, okay, if I have to write something or if I have to do a report or a content, what I will do is I'll say, if I think it's going to take me 2 hours, I actually only give myself an hour. So I actually reduce my procrastination time. So it actually makes me focus on the actual work. But what I also do is if it's a big thinking exercise, so at the moment, as of next week, I finished 4 very large workshops for a big project I'm doing, and I've got to write a report, which is something in the order of about 40 pages. And it takes a lot of thinking time even before I get into writing the report. So what I actually schedule in my diary is a couple of hours of literally thinking time. I don't expect an outcome in that time. I just go, this is the time I'm going to ponder and wonder and think about how I'm going to approach the report, and I allocate myself an hour or so to do that, and that's on Monday, and then I've allocated time to actually write the report. So I'm separating the kind of processing of the information with the delivery of the information, and so that means my time is far more effective when I'm actually in the process of writing, and it means I can limit the amount of time I have to do that.
I love it, Jenny. That's fantastic.
Because thinking time, we don't give ourselves thinking time, do we? Like, we just go, oh, I'll think about it later. But when's later? Like, there is no later unless you schedule it, unless you plan for it.
Yes. My husband is a horticulturalist, and he often says that the thinking and planning in his mind, not even the stuff on paper, but the thinking and planning in his mind is so all-encompassing that that's possibly often longer than what the job even ever takes to actually complete. And of course, that's the bit that you're never going to be paid for, are you? Because it's up to you how much time you spend thinking about it. But
it's very true. And I think I actually do, on that point, I actually charge for thinking time when I do big projects. So we don't often think about that. So that's the design piece. And as a consultant, and there's a lot of people on the call who are consultants or planners or designers of some form. So even Brenda, with your curtains, there is time where you have to plan. In your costing, in your pricing model, you should always try and include design time. So that could be your thinking time, that could be your drawing time, whatever that is, because that's actually the IP people are paying for. The delivery piece could be done like with your husband, with Richard, is that it doesn't the actual delivery of the work could actually be done by anybody. What they're taking is his design and his concepts and all that information. That's actually where the knowledge and the information is. It's not the delivery. It's not the organizing or the making of the curtains or the delivery of the product. It's actually the thinking that goes behind it. So it's so important in your pricing schedule and your pricing models to actually include that thinking time as a cost. You have to show, you don't have to actually open that up as a, hey, by the way, I'm including an hour of thinking time that you're charging them for, but you put it in your pricing model to make sure you're always costing yourself into that so that you then dedicate the time, because then it becomes a priority.
I definitely agree with that. And certainly for the workshops I run and things, that's all factored in, how many hours, but also I'm quite strict on how many hours I allow myself to do for my planning. So that said, I really need to tell Richard he needs to just do less thinking.
Do less thinking. I don't know if that's possible.
Okay, so Richie, you got to shut off on that brain now and move on to something else.
Well, it's funny. It's amazing when we think I read this amazing thing about, so I have someone at the front door trying to get in. I think it was either Brene Brown or it may have been Mel Robbins. I think it may have been Mel Robbins. I was listening to a podcast of hers, and she was talking about positive procrastination. And so allowing yourself time to procrastinate. And I guess that's when, and I think that's my thinking time, where we go, oh no, I need to do it, but I'll do it later, or I've got to get to it, or I have all these things that I think I need to do. But positive procrastination, that permission to just wonder and kind of sit in the moment and kind of marinate in something, is actually really powerful from a creative perspective. It actually gives your body and your mind permission to really explore ideas. And often we're so on that kind of process journey where we keep doing the same things over and over again, we don't stop to think about, is there a different way we can do this? Or is that the best solution I could offer? Or how could I do this differently? And that's what positive procrastination means to me. It's giving myself time and permission to do nothing, but be really be proactive and creative.
Yes, that is such a good point. And that's very much what's happening for me around my CEO day, even though that I'm not doing nothing on that day. But it's certainly my day where I try and limit any other distractions that are going on. I set myself tasks. So for 1 hour, for example, after this now, 1 hour, boom, I'm going into the thinking about the new plan for a particular client or something, or it might be rejigging my agreement model or something. It might be thinking about how the new masterclass is going to evolve, etc. So it's really important, because in the midst of other days of my week, there is no time for that. But I still find even on that CEO day, I must schedule those blocks in, because otherwise I can get a bit carried away and spend too much time in one area, and haven't left and then next thing it's 7 o'clock Friday night and haven't finished it. Or one thing I really dislike is leaving a Friday with still loads to do on my to-do list. So if I come back to what you said at the very beginning about those 4 different ways of categorizing, then maybe then it would be okay to leave some of the things on my to-do list on a Friday, because they weren't urgent, super important.
And I think that's the thing, is because we just go through the motions and we assume if somebody gives us something, then we have to do it straight away. And I do that. I have that mentality with my mobile phone. So my mobile phone is for me to use. It gives you it. Yes, you can contact me, but it's actually not for you to call me. It's for me to be able to access information and call you. So just because somebody's calling me at that moment doesn't mean that I have to jump and respond if it doesn't suit me. And I used to do that all the time. And maybe it's my background being in the military and having to answer phone calls all the time. And you haven't got that opportunity to say no. In fact, no's is something you don't do. It's always let me see, or I'll work it out. So you don't say no. So I had this habit of having to jump all the time and respond immediately. Whereas now I go, actually, right this moment, I'm in the process of doing some thinking work or doing report writing. I can't take that call because it will take me out of flow. So even the way you use technology in your mobile phones and your laptops or email has to work for you and not just be a tool for other people to bombard with information. And in fact, that I was finding that with all the subscriptions that I have and all the different kind of mailing lists that I'm on and all the information I collect, I've actually created a whole separate mailbox called mailings at Elephant in the Room Consulting. And so I register anything that I want information of, but I don't want to see it in my primary inbox. I put it as a separate email address. So I have a whole separate box. And when I have a day of just research and wondering and thinking, I'll actually go through my subscriptions mailbox and look at the content from people. And that's the stuff that I want to have access to, but I don't need to have access to it every single day because it just clogs up my inbox. Now you can do that through folders and other things. But I just find that gives me clarity and gives me some space to think rather than being, constantly bombarded.
Jenny,
don't do that with our mailboxes.
Yeah.
My email and my Kylie and my newsletter have to be read. Everyone else is put in a separate box.
I just love that you've said that about your newsletters. I've just been talking a lot about newsletters this week, actually, and how important it is to be constantly growing that email database and regularly, yes. I would say at least weekly, sending out to your database. But one of the reasons that I say that is because, of course, we can miss what's coming up in our news feed. And, I might not even turn on Instagram over the weekend and I've missed your amazing post and offer, et cetera, et cetera. But when you've sent me a newsletter or an email, it's sitting in my inbox until I delete it. Now, what I love is that you've said that you're putting them somewhere. So for me, with the G Suite setup, I've got it sitting there under my promo folders, just sitting there doing things. Now, when I skim that, I'm looking for the best subject line that grabs me, which is really why subject lines are so unbelievably important. But like with you, sometimes I'll just star it or something so that I make sure I come back to it because I definitely want to see it. And then I go through and maybe just skim the rest that I want to look at. But I definitely save newsletters because ones that I really know that I'm going to need later on or something. So they're just so gold to be doing. But my big top suggestion around that is just like with social media also, but with your email marketing, make sure it's not always just trying to sell or offer something, because then if you read it a month later, then that offer is going to be quite irrelevant. Yes, you might have a bit of FOMO that you missed out on that, but really, really important that you have something in there that's giving value, not just giving an offer. And so that people have got a reason to keep wanting to know about what you're offering.
And I love that idea of starring. I do a flag or something like that instead of a star. So the same principle, but I do because newsletters, the information that's in there is such great fodder for kind of future discussions and conversations and everything else. And it's where you kind of draw your inspiration from other people. It's kind of like having a mini mentor in my inbox, when I look at other people's, the way they just describe things but I agree with you totally about that. And I love that little hack about the email subject line, because we don't think about what the subject line is going to be. We kind of be like, oh, we'll just write this. This is my newsletter for this week. So I have somebody who sends me a newsletter that I'm still on their list. I very rarely read it. But what I find is that when it comes through the email, the header is almost the same every single time on the newsletter. Like they haven't changed the newsletter. It's like newsletter 1, newsletter 2, newsletter 3, newsletter. And I'm like, that's not exciting me. That's not interesting to say, I want to actually open that email. So I love that hack that you have around making sure your email title is like really engaging and makes you want to participate and open up and engage. So good.
Like how about November news?
Yeah. It's like, wow.
I've got to really know what I'm going to be finding in there for me to be opening it up, because there's coming into my.
So I have a question for you. So actually, if anyone is on the call today and you have a question around prioritizing, I'd love to know what other hacks you use in terms of managing your time, particularly because you have so many clients. I mean, we're talking about little particular priorities and specific things. I know one of the things from a pricing and delivery model, going to group coaching is a way to prioritize your time, because you actually can say, I actually want people to come in, get information as a group, they share ideas, and we create that kind of mastermind effect. But we haven't got that. But we can manage how much time we give through the program. So I know it sounds silly, but even group coaching is a way to manage your time.
Absolutely. And I was just speaking with someone this week that has been doing my group coaching for a month now and just said it's keeping me accountable. And that's
Yeah.
important because I know that and she actually schedules time out for after every single hour-long group coaching. She's then got 2 hours set aside that she's going to get stuck in and schedule all her digital marketing stuff, write a newsletter and all those kind of things to make that happen. And
Yes.
like, yes, that's so good. For example, I do the 1 hour a week with my sales coach. And again, that's really good because that hour before that session, I need to really get on top and make sure I know exactly where I'm at in my Xero software system. And so rather than doing it straight after, I'm doing it directly before. So all of those things that you can do that make you put that time aside and work on that part of your business exactly. And also keep learning. I know we always talking about every coach needs a coach.
Very much.
It's so important to not just get stagnant at where you are in your business, but to just keep
100%.
Like you said, finding new ways of doing things, better ways of doing things that are going to save you time, also things that are going to save you money. One of my teams a few months ago went through, looked at all the subscriptions that we have to everything and reduced quite substantially down what's being spent in a year. And it was quite amazing. So I think we're going to schedule that for every 3 months because it can really quickly add up what you're subscribing to.
It's such a good point. And that idea of looking at we're talking about prioritizing and getting, more effective days, but even things like how to use technology and not go into the shiny thing that comes up new. Like we always talk about, we go to webinars, you and I go to a webinar quite regularly, and we're getting always like the latest little hack and the new technology you can use for something. And we go, oh, we must have that. And then all of a sudden we end up with 15,000 subscriptions that we never use and we're paying for that aren't actually adding value to us. So on that point, I'd like to share that when we're doing technology, if you're choosing or looking to buy a new piece of software or access a new piece of software, you have to think of the opportunity cost of learning the new software versus the value it's going to give you. So you go, wow, that's amazing. I love this. It does what I do. But you realize I've got another thing that does very similar. So if the benefit it's going to give you is only 1 or 2 features, but it's going to take you 3 weeks to learn, is there value in you doing it? Is that 1 or 2 benefits that important and that great that you need to change your software? So it's just something to always remember when you're looking to new technology. What's the opportunity cost of moving it? Not just the value of the expense, but how much time do you need to invest in training your team?
Jenny, I agree with you. And I'd like to add to that point, which is sometimes it's worth paying for an hour or 2 for someone to train you up in it quickly.
Yes.
So, for example, with my team, we use G Suite. We have little problems that crop up from time to time. We each spend a little bit of time trying to figure it out. And when we can't, then I just book an hour with my super guru G Suite dude, Brad from XY Zulu. He's also my, host and email hosting and all that kind of stuff. 1 hour on Zoom with my whole team with him. We go through all the questions and we walk away going, wow, brilliant, got it done, love it.
Such good. And that's that opportunity cost. The value of that time is so much greater than the expense that you're going to have to, or the time that you have to do it if you're trying to work it out yourself.
Yes.
Because that's why you have experts. That's why you have people who, like doing your coaching program is about getting, being shown how to do things right and improve your digital media. My coaching program is around hacks like this, how to improve systems and structures and processes in your business and get clearer about your business. And so you can do that on your own, but it takes you much longer to get to the same point as when you're going through coaching. So that's what the value is, and that's that value exchange.
Absolutely. So Jenny, what could you give as your top tip for one of the platform that you love the most, that you use the most, whether it's just you or you and your team, or even, what would it be, the thing that you love the most that you not run?
I know we're on Zoom at the moment, but I absolutely love Teams, Microsoft Teams. So the reason I love Microsoft Teams is that with Zoom, when we're having a conversation like this, when we finish, we send everybody the recording and they get a link to the recording. When you're in a Teams meeting and if everyone's invited into that Teams meeting and you get a Teams link, you can actually go back to that same link repeatedly and you get a history of your conversation and a history of your recordings in one single location. So for my individual coaching sessions and my one-on-one coaching sessions, I always use Teams because they have the link, and if they want notes, if I give them file shares or anything like that, that's captured in one location forever, and we don't have to keep saying, well, where did you send that file and where's the recording, it's all captured in one location. So that's my hack in terms of one-on-one coaching sessions.
That is a fantastic one. And yes, that definitely does sound useful. But on the flip side of that, can you also make that not available?
Yes, you can just remove the participant from the link.
Great. That's interesting, because sometimes depending on what, if you're teaching or something, you don't necessarily want to be giving out that.
Very true.
That link or something. That's amazing. Well, my top tip for this week would be Airtable. So
how good's Airtable?
My team have always used it, but I've never found it particularly good. No, I'll take that away. I haven't been particularly good at it, and it's because I just haven't had the time to delve into it. Exactly what you were saying before. So recently, I've been spending time with one of my team members who's a superstar at it, and I've been watching her. We're sharing screen, and I'm watching her set up new things that I'm designing or planning, and going, "Oh, can we do that? Can we do that?" And now I feel much, much, much more confident using it. But I just love it. I literally feel like it's endless, the things that you use it for. And then I found, and also, we were talking before about subscriptions and costs. So many of the free versions you actually don't need to upgrade to. So we're still using the free Airtable. Yeah. And one of the templates I was looking at that they provide, I hadn't even looked at them before, was actually a CRM. And I was like, that's really fascinating. So we were paying, I don't know, close to $200 a month for Entreport and barely using it in the way that we really should have been. So, after many, many months, got out of there and have been researching CRMs ever since, and think we've just got one that we're going to do, and then no, something's not quite right about it. Anyway, in the meantime, we're still just using MailChimp, which is great, and it's getting better and better all the time, but probably using it still because I have been for well over 10 years, but knowing I need a really good CRM. But then when I saw that Airtable's even doing that, I'm like, wow. It just all boils down to, what do you need? So I'm not going to use it for mine because I know that it doesn't provide exactly what I need, but for some other types of business models,
it'd be perfect. 100%. Yeah. So Kylie, if we talked a little bit about your coaching program, so I'm recognizing time, and we're talking about prioritizing time, and we only said 30-minute bite-sized conversations on a Friday. So where can people connect with you and work with you?
hellomedia.team is the website, and in there's all the different coaching programs that you can sign up for. Definitely the best value at the moment is the group coaching, which is really fun, and we just cover every single thing possible and keep you accountable. And so I'm Kylie Mowbray Allen from Hello Media, and my women's networking group is Positive Passionate Women in Business. So what about you, Jenny? How can everybody connect with you?
So I have EITRconsulting.com is my website, but the best place to connect with me, where I kind of hang out the most, is my Facebook page, which is at Elephant in the Room AU. That's much easier to remember. And so Jenny Walk from Elephant in the Room Consulting. You can also find me on Facebook. So if you're not friends with me, why not? Come and join me and say hello. And I have basically 2 coaching packages, the same with you. I have a group coaching package, and we have that an arrangement. So if anybody wants to join my group coaching, where we talk about systems and processes like this, because that's where my head is, and it's what I love to do. We have a deal at the moment where you can join both of our programs for $500 a month instead of, I think it's normally around $800 if you buy them separately. So anybody who joins our conversations today, you can join our package. So let us know, and we will send you the details for that.
Yes. So all you need to do is, send us a private message or whatever. They're not on our websites because it's a little secret special offer for only people that are listening in on this. So I really look forward to seeing you next week again, Jenny. I really enjoy Friday mornings with you.
Me too. It's my favorite day.
A new topic for next week, which is very exciting. And
I even have the topic for next week here, Kylie.
Oh, yes. What is it?
So the topic for next week, which is on this idea of prioritizing and managing, is Kylie's going to talk about focusing on how to manage time and your spend on digital, how much time you spend on digital marketing.
Yeah,
which is so important. I can't wait for
that. Me too. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jenny. Great to see you.
Great to see you. And great to see everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
See you next week. Powerful Friday. Big fat finish to your week.
Boom. Definitely. Have a great CEO day.
All right. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.